West Denver. Sleep deprived and heavily caffeinated.
All right, let's do this then.
This is the Jeff and Bill Show.
I don't agree with that.
They don't always agree, but hey, at least they have coffee.
Coffee.
And each other.
I love you, man.
God help us.
I want to bless him. We need all the help we can get.
Now here's Jeff Hunt and Bill Thorpe. The Jeff and Bill Show on News Talk 710 KNUS.
Welcome back to the Jeff and Bill Show at 7 a.m. in the Mile High City on this Thursday, September 18th, 2025. We are talking Jimmy Kimmel Live, indefinitely postponed by ABC following offensive Charlie Kirk comments. Are they that offensive? Here's what he said. We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang trying to characterize this kid who killed Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them. Now, on its face, not the most offensive thing he's ever said. But when I think you look at the totality, as Matt Taibbi said, Kimmel was one of the most vicious, unredeeming late-night talk show hosts, continually hitting new lows during the pandemic, in particular with the aforementioned anti-vax Barbie and rest in peace Wheezy monologues. Sure to go down as cultural anti-landmarks. Dave Portnoy chiming in, saying, with Kimmel getting canned, I'm seeing lots of people talking about the hypocrisy of cancel culture. To me, cancel culture is when people go out of their way to dig up old tweets, videos, etc., looking for dirt on somebody they don't like in an effort to get them fired. Like if Kimmel got canceled for what he did on The Man Show, that would be cancel culture. But when a person says something that a ton of people find offensive, rude, dumb in real time, and then that person is punished for it, that's not cancel culture. That is consequences for your actions. But you have the FCC that was part of this, weighing in prior to the termination, saying that they would throw their weight around. We could do this the easy way or the hard way, said the chairman of the FCC. So it's this Donald Trump being authoritarian, using the power of the FCC to silence his opponents. Is this a violation of free speech? Or is this a private company tired of dealing with an unfunny late night show that was tanking in the ratings? And this was the camel, or the straw that broke the camel's back. Let's go to the phone lines. Don, Colorado Springs. Good morning, Don. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Good morning, men. And I just wanted to say that I'm going to say this. I've said this to Mark Davis on your sister station in Dallas-Fort Worth, and I'll say it here. There are a lot of conservatives that are now trying to set their sights on The View. Now, as much as I hate The View, I hate the ladies on there. Right now, at the moment, as long as they don't do any stupid stuff that Kimmel did, they should be fine, and just let them have their nice little hour of chit-chat and bashing of us. I mean, there's nothing illegal of being a bully, but Jimmy Kimmel did cross a line. And I should remind you that this is being Denver, Colorado. This has been much forgotten, but many years ago, Howard Stern, when he still had a terrestrial radio show, said a really pathetic remark regarding the Columbine shooting, and the radio station that carried it yanked the show, and rightfully so.
And look, I don't think that comment rises to the level of offense so much to the point where it would be like commenting on a shooting. But there's a few realities in this business. The biggest one being revenue drives all. If Jimmy Kimmel was this wildly popular show with a tremendous amount of money coming into ABC, ABC would go to the mat to defend him. That is just part of the equation. This show was losing money. It was losing viewers. It wasn't funny anymore. People were moving on and using other entertainment. Secondly, we also live in a business where executives just don't want to deal with the headache sometimes of somebody out there making comments all the time, having to go into another meeting, having to sit down with sales staff, dealing with advertisers, pulling their revenue. Sometimes the stress just isn't worth it, especially if the money's not there. And I think they just run into that. Look, we've had people on this station make comments about school shootings. They're no longer on this station. So it happens.
And they made some other statements, and they got pulled as well. I mean, let's talk about Dan Caplis's long sparring partner.
Right.
He ran his mouth, and KNUS canned him quick.
Yeah, that's a fun story behind the scenes, but we won't do that this morning. Boy, do I have stories about that, Don. I could share some stuff that people would be mad about this morning.
It's all part of the business, and we started off the discussion, Bill and I, going, at any moment, for whatever reason, this show at some point will probably end.
Yeah,
and it's part of the reality we live with.
And Peter Boyles, got into it at another station, and now Michael Brown's doing wake-ups for them.
And here's the thing, Don, is that I agree with both you and Jeff that ABC can make whatever decision they want. And it is they are a private company. I also agree that and this is part of my opinion, but I agree that Jimmy Kimmel was not very good at his job. I personally would rank him third, and a far behind third compared to the other Jimmy and Stephen Colbert, just based on what they did in presentation, not judging politics or anything else, just based on the efficacy of stuff like how good are you as a host, how good are you as an interview, is the monologue at least entertaining, whether or not I agree with the jokes or not, just presentation and style. I thought Kimmel was tail end Charlie of all of them by far. I didn't understand why he was named host in the first place. Remember, he started his career as hosting on a show where he had women in tight shirts bounce up and down so we could see their boobies go boing, 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 boing. That's where he started on The Man Show. So that's what his level. That's where he started. That's where he got his. That's where he made his bones.
I think he started on Win Ben Stein's Money because he was the co-host.
Yeah, he was the co-host there. But when he started hosting, because that's the thing. Win Ben Stein's Money, though, he's a game show host. He becomes a show host with Adam Carolla on The Man Show. So that's where he does the the influencer, and that's when he does here the interviews, and that's the idea of what he's doing on his current show. The problem that I have in here is when.
And even Adam Carolla is more conservative, if not libertarian.
Yeah, completely.
For the record.
And the problem that I have is when FCC Chairman Brendan Carr goes on Benny Johnson and says we can do this the easy way or the hard way, that this company can find a way to take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC to do. And Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, said ABC could lose its license over this. Over what one host said, he's going to yank the broadcast license of an entire entity. What would have happened if this was a Biden or Obama administration coming in and saying they're going to shut down Fox News, shut down, what would happen?
It wouldn't be talk like it was coming from our current FCC person. And the left would love to cancel anybody that doesn't hold their worldview. And I mean, that's what the fairness doctrine was all about for so many years, or at least it was used that way. They were just saying, everybody's listening to Walter Cronkite, the most trusted man in America. But the man was a discreet leftist disguised as a journalist, but he knew how to play the people along using body language rather than being blunt that his successor, Dan Rather, did.
Yeah, see, I have a different opinion of it than Cronkite, but I appreciate you bringing in the fairness doctrine, because while that was an imperfect bludgeon, it did have some sort of guardrails at the time. I'm not advocating to go back to it, but that was something that was interesting in that time that prevented a direct one-sided nature in the conversation and in news gathering. True. But then we decided the marketplace will take care of it, and so we took that away. I wouldn't advocate to go back to it, but it did have some merit.
There's some truth to that, and I mean, the NRA used it to their advantage. Phyllis Schlafly used it to their advantage. But I mean, the thing of it is, there was the Nixon administration, and more so the JFK administration, that used it as a weapon to censor their political enemies.
Yeah, and that became the problem in the fairness doctrine. Hey, I appreciate it, Tom. That was nice, man. Nice conversation. That was something that I wasn't expecting. Doing fairness doctrine with you this morning. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Join the conversation, 303-696-1971. Is this a violation of free speech? The FCC stepping in, muddling the waters. Didn't say that they're going to pull the license, but said we could do this the easy way or the hard way, kind of hinting that they were willing to use the power of the government to address what Jimmy Kimmel was doing on the show? Or is this just a private company that's had enough with the guy? If he was really pulling in the dollars, ABC would have gone to the mat to protect him, but they don't need the headache. Government does this. I mean, we covered Jared Polis talking about how he was going to use the power of the government to shut down the oil and gas industry. So when you hold that office, that executive office, there's a lot of power that comes with it. You don't necessarily have to go right to court to fight everything, but you can go, hey, guys, I got a lot of power here. You don't do what I ask. It could be a headache for you.
And remember, the other great Polis discovery was that his big, beautiful birthday bridge was hated by like 90% of Colorado. So then he bravely vowed to prevent the big, beautiful birthday bridge from being built. He said he would even go down there and stand to stop the bulldozers they're his bulldozers that he wanted to put there in the first place. But yes, that's the courage that he has.
Could you imagine being a construction worker going, hold on, the guy that pays me to do this is now standing in front of it.
Yeah, to say
Shane,
no.
So what do I do?
Yeah, the thing for me is the only thing I would do is I would call my supervisor and say, hey, am I still hourly?
Yeah, right.
Let him stand there for as long as he wants. I'm just going to hang here.
I'll just
that's what I want to
scroll on my phone inside the bulldozer.
Exactly.
All right, we'll continue. Joan, you'll be up next, but now it's time for news and comment with Blake Olson.
Blake Olson.
Blake Olson, news and comment.
Good morning. Thursday, 46 and sunny in Denver, expecting a high of 73 today. This portion of the news is sponsored by Pastor Camp Heating and Air Conditioning at 303-777-1234 to learn more about special savings opportunities on Lennox equipment. Our top story, CSU will enforce game day security rules today for 2 Charlie Kirk memorial events. Turning Point USA is hosting a vigil at Canvas Stadium, followed by a free speech forum in the Laurie Student Center ballroom. CSU says it's not endorsing the events, but must uphold the First Amendment. Clear bags, security screening, and heightened police presence will be in place, with costs shared by student groups and CSU. Firearms remain banned on campus under state law.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between
47 congratulating ABC for taking Jimmy Kimmel off the air. The former comedian received conservative backlash after he joked Tuesday night that the Kirk assassin was MAGA. On Wednesday, Trump praised ABC for pulling Kimmel and then took aim at late-night comedians Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers and said, "Do it, NBC." Lefties love them. They love them all. They're just not funny to me, and they all cost far more than they bring in. Here's Jimmy Kimmel after Tucker was fired from Fox.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know. One of the most despicable mother Tuckers ever to appear on American television.
Okay, the severed bow ties was actually a good line. So was the mother Tuckers. But the majority of the time, he was just wrong, factually, all the time, and he is wrong.
Well, and I'm listening through that, and you're right. There's like a few lines in there that could kind of get a chuckle. And
Yeah, no, it's good writing. Great
look
writing.
at like when South Park put Charlie on. That was pretty funny, and even Charlie embraced it. Even though, conservatives are not pearl clutchers in the sense of like, oh, you made fun of me. Oh, this is so terrible, and upset about it all the time. We get made fun of a lot. It's just whether or not it's good.
Yeah.
And timely. And in
Yes.
this case, it was neither good nor timely.
No.
But I'll go back to this again and again and again. Sales saves all. And there
Yes.
was no money behind Jimmy Kimmel anymore, no audience behind him. And we've all worked with executives. We know the way they think. They don't want headaches. They hate headaches. And if you become a headache in an institution, you go.
Yes.
And so in this
Absolutely.
case, I think ABC was just like, golly.
Now,
You-
can I
we're
jump in on
done.
this one too? And again, I'm not doing this to create an argument or fight. I'm doing this actually to agree with both of you on things where in that monologue by Kimmel, there are some funny lines. You know, the severed bow tie. Okay, the retaining the testicles. That's kind of funny because the reference point. But
I kind of laughed at that
the
too.
part that gets me though is when he turns to the ad hominem attacks, the personal attacks. That he's a disgusting person, most despicable person ever on broadcast. That to me crosses the line. You can make fun of him and say, "Oh, he's got extra time to go and tan certain parts of his body," and wonder what he's going to do. Maybe his next interview is going to be. You're poking fun at him, but you're not necessarily making it that personal attack. That's to me where Jimmy Kimmel often to cross the line is he made it so personal, and that's no longer to me funny. And that there is a space for that. It's called an insult comic. Those people that are insult comics are absolutely
like the roasts.
special.
The roasts are really funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Jeff Ross is amazing. But you have to understand what you're getting into. In fact, side note, just because things are tangential, on the Key and Peele show, they have a bit about an insult comic that is absolutely hilarious. Go and watch it because it is really, really funny. It's something you should go back and look. Yeah, just Key and Peele insult comic. It's really funny. Go back and watch it because it shows the dichotomy of what you're looking for an insult comic. But the point is, Kimmel's not an insult comic. When he turns into calling Tucker Carlson disgusting, that's beyond the boundaries of what, in my opinion, his role should be. His role should mock and make fun of everybody across the spectrum, but you don't have to necessarily get personal about it. There are times you can mock Obama about his tan suit without saying, and he's the most disgusting Marxist stupid president we've ever... No. They talk about the idea that whose idea was the tan suit and everything else. That's it. I mean, there are easy ways to do it. That he was, pretending to have camouflage on, whatever the hell you want to do. There's so many things you can do there.
And I think keep in mind, too, the business that we're in, because there'll be a time when this show ends and Kyle Clark laughs at it and does a little story on it, and he'll do his little snide remark. And then there'll be a time when Kyle Clark's show ends and we'll laugh at it and make some remarks. We have thick skin.
Yes.
And it's part of the understanding of what we're doing here. Is that we're supposed to get to the line, but not cross the line. But sometimes the revenue doesn't come in, and then it's just over, and it's a business, and people don't want to deal with it anymore. I mean, I guarantee you, next star right now is Kyle Clark versus the other reporters in this community. Going, can we just do news and not have to deal with the headache? Or, gosh, he's such a draw. We're willing to deal with the headache because he's such a revenue driver. They are making that calculation right now, and I guarantee you ABC did the same thing with Jimmy Kimmel.
And that is a truism that you're absolutely 110% right about this, that if he was a huge cash cow, if he was pulling in 60% of ABC's revenue between 7 p.m. and 1 a.m. in the morning in that time slot, they would be out there defending him in a second. But, I think you're absolutely right that that's part of the money.
And that is why Access Hollywood didn't release the tape until 2016. They had that. And guess who was the cash cow?
Yeah, it was Donald Trump.
Donald Trump was.
You couldn't burn the golden calf at that point.
He was the top. That first year that The Apprentice came out, he was the top show.
Yeah.
The irony with all this is, remember, just a few weeks ago, Charlie was mocked on South Park, and he just embraced it.
And because it was actually kind of funny.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he said I've arrived or whatever.
Yeah, and it was again, it was comedic and it was poking fun without that deep personal attack. And I keep going back to Kimmel saying most disgusting person in broadcasting. Hang on, that to me is a step over. I can't figure out where in any sort of an opening monologue when you're talking about someone that holds the position of Tucker Carlson, disagree or agree with him, whatever, that you turn around and in that monologue, in that role, say that they are the most disgusting person. You can make fun of them. There's so many other things you could have done. But for me, that's where Kimmel got to be just so acerbic. And that's why, again, I rank him at third place. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And then there's guys, wow, this is interesting. Democratic Representative Jerry Nadler, who proves that he is probably just flat out of touch.
Politicizing the murder of Charlie King to go after free speech is not a legacy I believe Charlie King would have wanted.
Wow. So he called him Charlie King a couple of times.
And those are the people that get to make the laws.
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
I am full of confidence this morning that we're definitely going to go in the right direction with people that can't remember the last names of other people. It's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Again, I can forget that, but I'm some joker on a radio show. I don't get to vote on laws.
Right. No doubt.
Someone has a lot more responsibility in this conversation.
Exactly.
Just saying.
He's not the morning host.
Yes, exactly.
Of the Zoo.
Yes.
I agree. Flags are being flown at half staff in Pennsylvania to honor 3 police officers who were killed in the line of duty last night in York County. 5 officers who were trying to serve a warrant. Oh, man, every time this happens, it's frightening. When someone started firing shots at them, 3 officers were killed and the 2 surviving officers are in critical but stable condition. They killed the shooter. DJT says he's designating Antifa as a terrorist organization and called the movement a sick and dangerous radical left disaster. Former CDC Director Susan Maneras says she was fired for resisting pressure from HHS Secretary RFK Jr., who said he let Dr. Maneras go last month because he couldn't trust her. I think that's a good reason to let her go. A new study links marijuana use to increased risk of type 2 diabetes. Those who used weed are close to 4 times more likely to get type 2 diabetes. There's still hope here, Jay.
Breaking news. I'm shocked that those that get stoned and sit around may have some form of health consequences related to getting stoned and sitting around.
Eating Doritos.
Yeah, right.
Right?
And a great healthy lifestyle.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, really? You mean the people that get the munchies are going to necessarily have some health consequences from it?
Right.
Especially get the munchies for the stuff that has a lot of the sugar and the salt. Wow.
Yes.
That's a surprise.
Yes.
I don't know how many of us had experience with people smoking a lot of marijuana in college, but in my experience with them, they never sat around and went, hey, who's got the carrot sticks?
Yeah, right.
Never. That was never it. It's no one is like, let's go get a the
Let's
was
go exercise.
Smoke some weed and then go, exercise.
Yes. It was never the discussion that happened.
Right. Carrots. Oh, man.
In my mind, that's like a new study reports those smoking marijuana are prone to relaxing and speaking slowly. You're like,
yes.
Exactly. Frying their brains. ABC's Matt Gutman apologized for the flowery words he used describing the relationship between the assassin and his transgender boyfriend.
An alleged murder with such specific text messages about the alleged murder weapon, where it was hidden, how it was placed, what was on it, but also it was very touching in a way that I think many of us didn't expect. A very intimate portrait into this relationship between the suspect's roommate and the suspect himself, with him repeatedly calling his roommate who is transitioning, calling him my love, and I want to protect you, my love.
Oh, Lord. So he's apologized for that. Oh, man. CU plays host to Wyoming this weekend. Coach Prime says the Buffs are better than their 1-2 record. UTSA, Texas San Antonio at CSU on Saturday, and Boise State at Air Force, UNC at Houston Christian. Dolphins, Bills tonight, and the Broncos continue to prep for the Chargers Sunday. 45 in Aurora, 44 in Lakewood, 46 in Denver. Jeff and Billy continue. Blake Olson, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Very pleasant September weather for Denver in the Front Range today, tomorrow, and as we head on into the weekend. Temperatures will be 70s today and sunny, 75 to 80 and sunny on Friday. Will be around the lower to mid-80s for the weekend. The weekend might bring one or two isolated thunderstorms. Weather's a service of L&L Heating and Air Conditioning. For quick, trustworthy, and dependable service, call L&L Heating and Air Conditioning at 720-851-1691. Visit them online at bestdenverhvac.com. You'll be comfortable with L&L. Meteorologist Don Day in the 710 KNUS Weather Center.
Well, the phone lines are hot regarding the firing of Jimmy Kimmel, or at least the postponing indefinitely of the show. Is this an overreach? Or is this just desserts? Let's go to the phone lines. Joan Lakewood. Good morning, Joan. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. I wanted to say that I agree with most of the people who are speaking. And when you brought up the Fairness Act, this is before my time, but they used to have this band in Massachusetts board, and I believe that was a board of I don't know, leaders. I don't know exactly about it, but they used to have where the breaks were from the private sector, not the government. I don't know what happened to band in Massachusetts. I'm not sure what happened to Massachusetts in general, but I think one of the things that people need to remember is the First Amendment is a restriction on government, not on private companies.
Do you think the government, though, is getting involved with the FCC saying we could do this the easy way or the hard way regarding Jimmy Kimmel? Now, there's no direct evidence that they were filing lawsuits or investigating, but they were at least threatening. Isn't that a violation of the First Amendment?
No, that's actually the First Amendment. I often say to people their bark is worse than their bite. And sometimes it's something that I use when I speak at city council.
So you think, Joan, you think that Brendan Carr was just blowing smoke? You think that it was a lot of puffery when he was talking to Benny Johnson and said we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and if these companies can't find ways to take action on Kimmel, then there's going to be additional work for the FCC to do. He also floated the idea that ABC should lose its license. So you think that was just puffery? He wasn't really being serious there?
I don't know. What I do know is that we have a beggar on a corner that we've been trying to, because he's been spitting and barking at people and stuff, and the police are like, well, we can't do anything until he does some action. And I think that's probably how I feel about this.
But that would be something that, Jimmy Kimmel isn't sitting on the corner spitting on people or barking at people. I mean, there's a TV show. The spitting and barking, spitting on someone, that's taking an action. That can get into the idea of assault. Kimmel's actions, because of the medium he is on TV, can't be construed as any sort of physical violence or assault. That's why the police, with the guy standing on the corner, they can't do anything as long as he's saying stuff, not taking action. So again, what's your interpretation, though? I understand that you don't know what Brendan Carr is doing, but you heard what Brendan Carr said. How would you interpret that? Do you interpret Brendan Carr, FCC Chairman, on the Benny Johnson show, do you interpret his statements as being a threat directed toward ABC, saying you better do something about this? Or do you interpret it as he's just blowing smoke and we should ignore him when he says something like this? How do you, Joan from Lakewood, interpret those words?
I interpret them as someone who knows where the country's going, that this was a watershed moment, that CBS and ABC have not been kind, and I just think that it probably was a reflection, and that's one of the things that I think is happening. There's a teacher.
Is it the role of those broadcast entities to be kind? Is that their directive? And if they're not being kind, they should face consequences?
You know, the one thing that I have run into with the left is how they always say, you have to be kind, you have to be kind. And I'm trying to be kind right now because there is a teacher who just got fired up in Meade. There is the mom who put out the clip that you played yesterday about the children asking if the surprise was whether or not Trump was dead. As I'm trying to balance their abilities to speak, and I guess to a certain extent, I apply that to some of the government people. I don't think he was going to do it, but I think he was pointing out he could do it.
All right, Joan Lakewood, I appreciate it. Look, join the conversation. Would love to hear from you. There's lots of aspect to this. People losing their jobs over what they're saying regarding Charlie Kirk. Is that warranted? Is it cancel culture? Is it people and employers rightfully going, you're not the type of person I want working in our environment, someone that's willing to dance on the grave of somebody that's died. Now, Jimmy Kimmel did not do that, but his comments were inappropriate. And I think people are just frustrated, tired, dealing with folks like this, ABC, watching him lose revenue, lose ratings over and over and over again. Just said this becomes the straw that broke the camel's back. We're letting him go. Now, did the FCC improperly weigh in? Well, I think you could make an argument that they probably shouldn't have made those comments, that we could, quote, do this the easy way or the hard way. But you don't have any real movement by the FCC to violate anybody's free speech rights. They just kind of said, we're paying attention. We don't like this. Jimmy Kimmel, ABC, Disney, we got a lot of power here. Meh. Do I like the government doing that? Not particularly. But to claim that this was some authoritarian free speech overreach to violate the free speech rights of ABC and Jimmy Kimmel, I think, is a stretch as well. Would love to hear from you. 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's talk leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
to the Jeff and Bill Show. True to form, Trump heard Billy's comments earlier and has clicked off the signal.
Yes, he has. He's told Brendan Carr of the FCC. There are going to be consequences. That Thorpe kid.
It's a switch.
Yes.
It's the Bill Thorpe switch.
Yes, it is. It's a
You've
big red
gone
button.
too far, Billy.
Yes. Yes, and anytime I say anything about snakes, it starts blinking and they have to push it. Yes.
We recognize we're dealing with some broadcast issues on the terrestrial radio. Thank you all for your patience. But we are broadcasting live on X, YouTube, Facebook, so you could always listen to us
you can
there.
stream us that way.
By the way, it's amazing how much this is all changing. This is something Bill and I live real life.
Yeah,
so
this is weird.
Broadcast television's tanking, radio's changing, and you at the same time are dealing with tremendous amounts of opportunity on social media. Yeah. So we'll do this broadcast here. I'll make a video on Instagram that reaches 130,000 people, is retweeted, big numbers all there, and I did that in 30 seconds one time. I mean, it's all part of the things that are changing in this industry.
The entire
and that's what
landscape's
ABC's
changing.
dealing with as well. No, I mean, when was the last time you stayed up to watch broadcast late night television?
No. Not on these hours. We have to get up in the morning.
Right.
There's no
yeah,
way.
Right. But
night time's like 8.
You go to Instagram, you go to TikTok, and it's short form content. I saw the other day that there's now 60-second soap operas.
Yeah. And the other part is that the one way that Fallon has been able to maintain audience growth and revenue, again, he's not raking it in. He's struggling as well. But he is doing much better than Colbert and Kimmel are because he's leaning into the short form videos and the online. The online presence of Jimmy Fallon's show is significant, and they are always pumping out shorts, and they're always trying to interact with the audience through short forms that are connected to or directed back to the larger broadcast. But they're not expecting you as an internet consumer to show up for their broadcast show.
Yeah,
they
totally
understand that they're
separate
different.
audiences.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they feed on each other. They say, hey, look what we did on the show. Here's something. You don't have to watch the whole 2 hours or whatever it is. Or, hey, this is coming up, and if you don't see it, they're going to share it with you the next day. And then they also do stuff that you don't see on the broadcast format. And they have seen significant growth there. And from what I'm reading in the industry, that's the only reason that not Kimmel's show, but Fallon's show is still floating, where the others are taking on water significantly.
2033 just telling us use Harbor Freight tools and duct tape. Fix the
There we go.
broadcast.
Duct tape can fix anything. That was my dad's rule. And boy,
Let's
did he
go
do
to
it.
the phone lines. Gary, Denver. Good morning, Gary. You're on with Jeff and Bill.
Morning.
Good morning. You've heard this term influencers, and certainly individuals who might have a talk show or a podcast have greater influence than I might have if I express myself to people where I work. And so with that in mind, I wanted to talk about yesterday you had some people from, I think they were running for school board, where their campaign signs were vandalized or words were written on them. And
Yeah, swastikas placed on them, yeah.
Yeah, and Jeff indicated that you got into a discussion about how using words like fascists and communists could be a precursor to inciting violence. Do you remember that conversation?
Sure. Go ahead. Yep.
So when you said that, I was surprised that earlier, before you had that interview, your newsreader commentator called Adam Schiff a communist. Was that an inciting violence, since that's what you said using those words could create?
Yeah, so that's a good question, Gary. Do you think, though, that referring to somebody as a communist and a fascist and a Nazi, do you think they're all the same?
Well,
I raised that. Go ahead.
I'm saying that's the word you said. You said.
Well, that's what
verbatim,
Blake said.
No, that's what you said when you were talking to the lady who was running for school board. You said, Jeff, this is what you said. If someone calls someone a communist, fascist, or Nazi, that's a precursor. And you can listen to the tape because I heard you say it. That's a precursor to violence. So you said communist, and your newsreader said communist.
Yeah.
So is he inciting violence against people like Adam Schiff? I'm not a fan of Adam Schiff.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, should you refrain from calling politicians on either side a communist?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, maybe you ought to talk to your newsreader about that.
All right. Thanks, Gary. Appreciate the call. Gary from Denver, 303-696-1971, 303-696-1971. I guess I would challenge that notion based upon the people that often use it.
Yeah.
Right? So in that assumption that if you call somebody communist, fascist, or Nazi, that you are taking the step towards violence, I think you also have to consider who's doing the violence. And I don't see a lot of conservatives protesting, using angry rhetoric, calling people communists, and then getting to violence. It's often used as a critique of somebody in a more passive way, as opposed to the way the left uses it when they're down there marching all the time.
But is it necessarily passive? And this goes back to some of the conversations we were having last week. And where I go with this, and you know exactly where I'm going down the road on this, Jeff, is if you describe your political opponent as a communist, a Marxist that is bent on destroying America. Remember, Barack Obama was a secret Muslim that was going to implement Sharia law.
Yep.
We all remember the name Jade Helm. That was a military exercise in Texas that was supposed to be the leap-off for Barack Obama to declare martial law and take over the country because he was going to destroy our American way of life. Joe Biden was a communist China plant of some sort or another or something, and he was here and sent by China, a sleeper agent, to destroy the American way of life. And we have people on the other side that are describing Donald Trump in terms of Nazi and his supporters as Nazis and white supremacists and racists. So if you felt that way about your opponent and they are destroying America, why wouldn't you pick up a firearm? Why wouldn't you take action if you truly believed that they were trying to destroy the country? Why wouldn't you? Or are we just using these phrases as hyperbole in order to create damage and avoid the actual discussion?
So I think it's muddled, and that's part of the challenge here. Because if you've read the Communist Manifesto, and the first page says all of history is oppressor versus oppressed, and you look at our schools and you go, well, they've embraced that ideology a lot. I think you can absolutely critique people for embracing communist ideas. And I think that's a problem in this country when that happens, okay?
Just interrupt for a sec, though, but there has been that oppressor versus oppressed phrase that I've heard for a number of times on the conservative side about, oh my gosh, we are getting canceled, the cancel culture. I don't have my free speech. They're taking me off these platforms. They're deplatforming me. They're telling me I can't speak. They're firing me from my job. Same basic idea there is the idea that it's the same argument, I feel.
Okay, but I want to go back to whether or not using the phrase communism or fascist actually leads to violence. Because Gary's critique is that Blake refers to Adam Schiff as a communist. And what I'm trying to figure out, and I think somebody honest in observing what's happening in America right now would go, there's obviously something different between Blake saying Adam Schiff is a communist and somebody spray painting swastikas on a campaign.
Yeah, I would agree. They're different.
Like, they're different not only in action, but they're different in tone, and they're different in extreme
different
as well.
Yeah,
right?
I can agree to that, yeah.
So what I'm trying to figure out is why, because what Gary did was lump them all together. He goes, well, you guys are saying that labeling, like someone spray painting Nazi swastikas is a step towards violence because they're calling you a fascist. Well, didn't your news guy just call Adam Schiff a communist? Isn't he one step removed from violence? And I think, no, they're not the same. And I'm trying to figure out why they're not the same. And I'm open to ideas.
See, I think they're not the same based on degree. And
Correct.
the reason I say that is because when Blake is saying that as a form of speech, I think it's a little bit different when you take that form of speech and then start defacing the other person's property. For me, that's the line.
Yeah.
That's the difference in the two expressions. Blake wasn't stopping anybody else from saying anything. He didn't go down. He didn't want to spray paint anything on Adam Schiff's car. He wasn't stopping Schiff from saying anything. He was making that statement. However, the person that spray painted the swastikas on the sign is taking action. But I think also Gary's question is simply calling someone that an actual invitation for violence. And what he means is, if you call someone you're a communist or Marxist set to destroy America, is that an invitation for not necessarily yourself, but anybody else to take action?
And is it part of that process of heading towards violence? If we start labeling everybody we disagree with. So I think Gary has a fair point in a sense, but I think he's dismissing some actual realities that take place, which is, at least on one side, I think you are closer to violence, and this was one of the debates I had with riots as well. I think progressives are more prone to violence as a means to express their speech. They think that way. They see speech as violence. Violence is seen as speech. And so they're closer to the line. And if you're calling people Nazis and fascists all the time, I see it differently than Blake Olson referring to Adam Schiff as a communist, because I don't see big protests. I don't see the vandalism. I don't see the action on the right as regularly as I see it on the left, so I think it's more dangerous for the left. That's what I would say. All right. Where am I wrong? Give us a call, 303-696-1971. Text us on the Dan Caplis Law text line at 720-819-5115. I guess I would put it this way.
Yeah.
If you had regular protests, vandalism, and assault coming from the right towards communists, then I think you could say Blake referring to Adam Schiff as a communist is dangerous. But you do see that coming from the left, and so referring to your opponents as fascists and Nazis becomes dangerous, because we are seeing those protests, we are seeing the vandalism, we are seeing the murders. But prove me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add into that we can discuss when we get back is it somewhat dependent on the size of the group that is taking action? I'll explain that when we get back.
Great. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.
This is Denver's Talk Leader, News Talk 710 KNUS.
Lots of debate, lots of text messages. Bill, I'm a little hesitant to grab Larry here just because we're up against a hard break.
Yeah,
but,
maybe he'll hang
Larry,
till after this.
Stick around.
Yeah.
We've got a few more hours. We'll continue. Gary, I'm going to summarize Gary's point. You guys are saying that calling people Nazis, fascists, is creating the groundwork for violence, and yet at the same time, conservatives, including people on the show, refer to leftists as communists. Isn't that creating the groundwork for violence as well? People texting in saying January 6th, look at the violence that came from that. 9310 texting that conservatives are far more likely to be religious, and so they're not as godless as the Democrats. I think context does matter. If there was violence, protests, assassinations related to conservatives calling people communists, then I think you can make that argument. We'll continue. You're listening to The Jeff and Bill Show.